Hail, liberal fruitcakes! Ukraine, Russia, and treaties. Let's talk about it! Now, in yesterday's video, I talked about the most likely outcome of what's going to happen between Ukraine and Russia for a peaceful resolution. And many of you got upset and are still upset in my comments saying that, Russia's just going to win? That's unfair. That's not okay. And again, I say, Russia's nuclear. You see what I did? I said it right this time. I pay attention to you guys. I'm really getting tired of you guys saying that, just because we want the war to end, just because we understand this is the most likely outcome, that we're Russian supporters. The two things are not mutually exclusive. We can support ending a war and not support Russia. But understanding likely outcomes is important for peaceful resolutions. No matter how unfair it is, sometimes the good guys have to make concessions. If you don't understand, you need to understand. When Americans want to prioritize where their money goes and do not want to prioritize forever wars, especially when Zelensky has gone out and said that we are further away from a peace deal than ever, we do not have to support that endeavor. Ukraine is not part of NATO. Now, a lot of you brought up a very specific date, 1994, when Ukraine agreed to give up their nuclear weapons. I said it again right. Now, this event was known as the Memorandum of Security Assurance. It was signed by Russia, the United States, the UK, and Northern Ireland. Now, a lot of people said that, this memorandum means we have to support Ukraine. Wrong! It actually doesn't say that. There are four major things that this memorandum covers. Number one, it was meant to respect the sovereignty of Ukraine and its current borders at that time. Number two, it said that they would refrain from using threats of force or use of force, except in self-defense. Number three, it said that these countries would refrain from coercion in an economic fashion, meaning we wouldn't economically pressure that country into doing something. Number four, these countries would immediately seek the UN Security Council's assistance if Ukraine was threatened with nuclear war. However, nowhere in this agreement does it say or have any legal binding that we would give them military assistance. Not a single place in that entire thing. Now, you can read this entire document. It is super short. There are only 6 bullet points in the document. Now, in the document, it does say how the UK, the United States, Russia can react if they're being threatened. But it also sets agreements on how their response has to be. Like, they can't use nuclear weapons against non-nuclear states. And it says that they can respond if their allies are under threat of nuclear attacks. Now, I didn't look into the rest of the countries, but guess what? Ukraine is not an ally officially of the United States. They are considered a strategic partner. But again, they're not part of NATO. And the reality is this war, when it ends, they won't be. I can hear you guys crying, well, Russia broke this treaty. Yes, they did. They broke it back in 2014 when they annexed Crimea. The sticky situation about that is, at the time, like 58% were ethnically Russian, which I've always found that entire situation kind of comparable to Northern Ireland and the conflicts of both sides of Northern Ireland. If you guys don't know, you should go look into that because that's a messy history too. If we're looking at just a modern day, current events, not 2014, just a couple of years ago when this kicked off again, Russia was very clear that they didn't want Ukraine joining NATO. They viewed it as a security threat to them. And they did say that. Not justifying the actions, but again, they very specifically said that. And because of the ambiguity of the article that we just were talking about, they took that as a direct threat to their security and their nation. Well, this entire situation is messy. To my friends on the other side, how are you going to fix it? How are you going to stop it? Without escalation and with Ukraine coming out better in the deal. Can't just say Russia has to. They don't have to do anything. We want them to do those things, but they don't have to. And that's part of negotiations. You're going to say that the UN and all these other countries are going to work on deals. And they all said they are. That being said, every single one of them agreed that they need the United States in order to make this happen. Why? Because no matter whether we disagree on things, economically, socially, or disagree how this war is going to conclude, how we as individual countries are going to approach that. We are all allies. Strong allies. And yeah, sometimes allies argue, but that doesn't mean we can't move forward. And let's just get this out of the way. We know the EU doesn't like the United States. We know the UK doesn't like the United States. You guys don't like us. You don't like us as people. And you're going to say that, that's only a recent development. No, it's not. This was far before Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, the only reason this entire world operates semi-peacefully at any given moment is because of the United States. Because we are a strong ally to have in your corner at the end of the day. Because you get mad at us when we intervene and you get mad at us when we don't. So what do you guys want? Have a good day!